All right, so we are going to get started with today's webinar. Thank you so much to everyone who's on the line with us. We are going to be overviewing and demoing our newest commercial energy storage integration with Delta Technologies. We are very excited that our ETB users now have access to this integration, and a lot of hard work went into it from both teams. And before we get started, we're just going to mention some quick housekeeping. We're going to be recording this webinar, and it's going to be sent out to everybody who registered after the webinar, along with the slide deck. And as usual, we are going to be doing our Q&A at the end of the webinar. But as we go, feel free to chat your questions into the chat box, and we will try to get to all of them at the end. We are going to be posting everyone's contact information on the last slide. If you would like to ask additional questions or you're interested in anything in particular pertaining to the integration. So we do have a great group of speakers on from both the Energy Toolbase and the Delta team. My name is Tracy. I am the marketing manager, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. We also have Matt Simo. He's the regional sales manager at Energy Toolbase, and he's actually based out of our Hawaii office. So we are definitely saying good morning to him. From Delta side, we are joined by Brian Van Heel. He's the director of sales, Shane Long, the director of engineering, and Ravi, the senior applications engineer. So thank you to you three for joining us today on this webinar. All right, so let's get into the integration itself. I'm just going to cover some high-level stuff before I pass it off to the Delta team and to Matt. This integration was launched a few weeks ago, and it's designed to enable a simplified, an end-to-end procurement process for those who are using Energy Toolbase to model commercial energy storage projects. The Delta storage system, or the PCS, which the Delta team is going to get into, equipment lives within ETB, and it utilizes Energy Toolbase's iEMS intelligent energy management system control software for those commercial projects. This integration really enables users to run those Delta commercial storage dispatch simulations and the savings analysis, and show how they're representative of how the Delta products controlled by our iEMS would operate within the field. So our control software utilizes artificial intelligence and advanced machine learning to forecast and optimally discharge energy storage systems that are out operating in the field. And we've been working really hard with the Delta team to validate the ESS hardware specifications that are going to be in your account once you're approved to use this integration. And you'll be able to evaluate standalone ESS projects or solar plus storage, which Matt is going to be demoing shortly. So I do want to touch a little bit on our iEMS control software, which will be, like I said, paired with Delta's equipment if you choose to use the integration in Energy Toolbase. So our iEMS enables developers to maximize the value of their storage asset, and it really just offers a simple and advanced controls for behind the meter and front of the meter storage assets. We've worked really hard on ensuring that our iEMS system is optimized to capture all available value streams and to maximize savings. Our iEMS supports all industry standard communication protocols, and we have more than 4 years of operating history and R&D training on our machine learning models. We've incorporated this product. We incorporated this product when we merged with Pace on Power last year, and Matt is going to get a little bit more into that during his section of the webinar. So let's talk a little bit about the application process. What's great about our integrations is that they are free for Energy Toolbase users to use as long as you have an account with us. It's a dual opt-in process, which means Energy Toolbase accounts will have to first apply to use the service, and then the Delta team will grant access. When you're in step 5 and you're going to add an energy storage system, you'll initially see a grayed out Delta logo. But once you click, you'll get the prompt, like you see on the slide, to apply. And it generally takes up to 72 hours for approval. Delta does require storage developers to be approved prior to granting access to this integration. And those approved users are going to receive the latest updates on Delta hardware and support on projects. So now that I've covered a little bit of the high-level overview of the integration, I'm going to hand things over to Brian with the Delta team to talk a little bit more about the company's history, and then he will pass it off.
Thanks, Tracy. Appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for joining. My name is Brian Van Heel. I'm the Director of Sales at Delta. Our team, Shane and Ravindra, who are joining as well, we're responsible for the energy infrastructure business at Delta, which covers PV inverters for the residential, commercial, and utility space, as well as all of our energy storage solutions for those three spaces, as well as EV chargers. So I have a few slides here that are just going to cover a little bit about Delta, who we are, the industries that we serve, and then we'll hand it over to Shane and Ravindra to cover in more detail our PCS 125 products. So Delta is, we're based out of Taiwan. We're the world's #1 leader in switching power supplies, DC brushless fans, and telecom power since 2015. Whether you know it or not, most people in the U.S. are generally using Delta products every day. If you drive an electric car, if you use a laptop, if you use any Apple device, you're generally using Delta components in those products. Some other industries that we're a leading manufacturer in is in industrial automation, passive and magnetic components, networking products, visual displays, data center infrastructure, and what we will cover today, renewable energy applications. On the right side there, you can see our worldwide revenues. In 2019, we were a little over 10 billion globally. About half of that, about 5 billion, is in the U.S. Our major partners and major revenue streams in the U.S. was in our data center infrastructure and telecom businesses. We provide data center power for companies like Google, Facebook, Amazon, AWS. So Delta is relied upon by these global tech companies as a critical infrastructure partner. We adhere to the 6 nines level of reliability, which means that our products are designed to be 99.9999% availability and uptime. So when you talk about Delta's products and how we leverage that reliability and manufacturing power that we have across other business units that we have into inverters and PCS equipment, it really sets us apart from the competition. Tracy, you can move on to the next slide. So this map here just shows our global operations of Delta. We're really across all continents here. I'll focus on in the U.S. what some of our what some of these offices represent. So we have in Fremont is our U.S. headquarters. If you look at Raleigh, Durham, that's where most of our R&D happens in the U.S. In Detroit, we partner with a lot of the auto manufacturers. So we build onboard chargers, the infotainment systems in high-end vehicles, the seat ventilation equipment, and EV chargers. So we make EV chargers for companies like Tesla, Mercedes, Audi, Porsche, GM that are just white labeled under their names. In the Dallas branch, we focus on the telecom business and we manufacture battery cabinets. At the Vancouver office, we have our Delta Controls business, which focuses on site controllers and EMS and BMS equipment. We'll move to the next slide. So here's a look at our Delta headquarters in Fremont, California. This is a really special building, and it has all of Delta's technologies on display. This is one of only a handful of LEED certified platinum net zero buildings. So we have about a 1.1 megawatt PV system. That's a rooftop and carport system. That power really powers the entire building. We also have all of our ESS equipment on display. We have our PCS 125 products with 330 kilowatt hours of battery backup. And we have 25 plus level 2 EV chargers, as well as a 100 kilowatt DC fast charger on display. So I'd like to open an invitation to, if anyone's in the Bay Area, you're always welcome to stop by. We have a product showroom where we can show you how all these products work in real time. Move to the next slide, Tracy. So quickly, here's an overview of within our energy infrastructure business, kind of what products Delta manufactures. Um, if you look at what's highlighted in blue, those are the products that we don't manufacture, like PV panels and EV. But moving from the left to right, you can see that we have a real complete solution. From top down, from inverters to energy storage to the megawatt PCS, and EV charging systems for utility, commercial, and residential. So that's really one of the main factors that sets us apart from our competition, is having a full complete solution offering for all three segments of commercial, utility, and residential. We can move to the next slide here. All right, well, I'll hand it off here to Ravindra and Shane to focus on the details of our PCS 125 product.
Hey, hello everyone. This is Ravindra. I support on the engineering side for the PV inverter, energy storage, and the EV infrastructure. So our 125 kilowatt, the PCS product is pretty like high energy density product and very high efficiency output, and it's very small footprint on the PCS. So we design because as Brian mentioned, that Delta Electronics is mainly focused on the power electronics products. So we have very high reliable product, and it's very low standby losses, so like less than 25 watts, and it's very high power response time. It's very less than 40 milliseconds based on the EIMS feedback. It can pretty much faster response. And since this is the standard product and it's like a modular design, it's very flexible in terms of scalability. So it's pretty much, it can be scalable from 125 kilowatt all the way to 500 kilowatt as a state design. And it can be support both the grid tied system, the standard for DR application like a demand response and frequency regulations. And also it can be supported on the standalone applications for the off-grid or microgrid applications. And it has a built-in the black start capabilities. And also it can support the backup power and the microgrid applications. So it's pretty much like a completely integrated the solution, the product, which has already the built-in the AC and DC disconnects on both sides for the isolations. And also we have a built-in like a bus where you can kind of like bring 3 battery cabinets. So can be directly connected to the PCS. So you don't need to add any the DC combiners in between, so you can bring up to like a 3 battery cabinets can be connected directly to the PCS. So that's one of the more flexible in the battery interconnections. And also, as I mentioned, it's very compact footprint, so and it's easy to install and integrate at the site. And it's very regional field service capabilities, means like we do have a service center in Los Angeles and also the warehouse. So, and we, as Brian mentioned, our headquarters is in Delta, Fremont, California. So we also have an engineering team on both locations to help you guys to support on this product. So next slide, please. So our 125 kilowatt standard product is compliance with most of all the certifications required for the states. So we are certified for UL 1741 and 71, the new regulation, the 1741 SA, and also compliance with the Rule 21 for California, the Rule 21 requirement. So, and also it's compliant with the HICO compliance to support all the Hawaiian market. Pretty much our protocol compliance with the SunSpec requirements. And so we have compliance like all the mechanical requirement and support on the vibration and shock certifications. Next slide, please. So these are some of our installations in the States where we did multiple installation. This is one of the installation for Fremont fire station, where it's a very critical infrastructure, and it's one of the recognized by the DOE and CEC team. So this is mainly to support the fire station microgrid applications integrated with our solar PV. We also have solar PV inverter installed with that. So just to optimize between the solar and also the battery storage. And also we have the generator in parallel in case the backup requirements. So that's one of the critical infrastructure. We have 2 microgrid systems for the fire station. So next slide, please. So this is another the project for Albuquerque, the museum. We have four different sites for different locations. So we have one PCS to 125 integrated with the 2 battery cabinets in parallel. So this is mainly for the peak shaving applications for the demand response. So our system is completely outdoor rated, so NEMA 3R, so it can be so installed in any environmental conditions. The next slide, please.
It looks like that is the last slide for you guys, Ravi.
Yep, sure. Thank you. Yeah, so this is our the standard product. So as I mentioned, so we do have a skid design where it can go from 125 kilowatt all the way to like a 250 kilowatt and 500 kilowatt as a skid design with the integrated AC cabinet and DC cabinets. So it's a completely pre-wired and good to go kind of design. So it can help all the installers in the field. Yeah, so I can take up the questions later once it's finished.
Okay, sounds good. I'm going to pass things over to you, Matt. I will share your screen for you.
Okay.
All right, looks good.
All right, thank you, Tracy. So yeah, my name is Matt Simo, Regional Manager here at Energy Toolbase. And for those of you on that are not familiar with who we are a software company specializing in avoided cost analysis for solar, PV, and energy storage opportunities. And I just wanted to thank the Delta team for all the work that they've done on their side, just pushing this integration through, and also on our Energy Toolbase internal team. There's a lot of work that goes into these integrations, and just want to say thanks for all that hard work to get this deployed. So again, my portion of the webinar is going to be dedicated on how to use the Delta integration within Energy Toolbase. I'll be moving kind of quick through this, so if anyone needs more one-on-one training, we're going to be happy to set that up with one of our dedicated account managers. And before we get really started, I wanted to just do a quick review of how ETB plays a role in the integration. So about a year ago, we joined forces with a large company, Payson Systems, and joining forces there that enabled us to enter into the energy storage control market. So now ETB, we can control and create and deploy these controls that power these hardwares from the top manufacturers in the world, right? The most recent of which is Delta. And I'm going to take you through how this integration works. So here's a quick review on my screen here of just the rate tariff we're going to be using in this kind of example. So it's an ALTOU rate with San Diego Gas and Electric. So here we can see we have time of use energy, right? On peak, off peak, and super off peak. We have max demand as well as an on-peak demand or time of use demand. So it's a fairly typical rate of what we would see in the commercial industrial sector, and really a good rate to showcase what the capabilities of the Delta hardware and ETB controls are going to be. So the first time, like Tracy mentioned earlier, the first time that you jump into the integration here in step 5, I guess before we get into that, we're going to assume in this example that we've already went through steps 1, 2, 3, and 4, and now we're landing on step 5 within our platform, energy storage. So the first time you dive into here, you're not going to see any of these icons illuminated. They're all going to be grayed out. So like Tracy mentioned, you need to get approved right, before you can have access to the integration. So go ahead and click on the Delta icon. This window is going to pop up, and all you're going to do is click accept. And as Tracy mentioned, we're going to send that application in, and we do really try to get these approved pretty quick. We know that everyone wants to get approved, and they have things in their pipeline they want to develop. So yeah, no longer than 72 hours, Tracy mentioned, but we will make efforts to do it as quick as possible. Now, once you guys are approved, okay, you're going to get an email from Energy Toolbase, and in that email is going to be a link to the resource guide for the Delta integration. So you're going to get this link. It's going to pretty much contain everything that you need to know about the integration, right? About the Energy Toolbase iEMS, using the integration, the transaction, and a final checklist. It's just kind of a sanity check to make sure you review certain things before you finalize the project. And as I mentioned on the transaction side, within that email, you'll be notified that we will drop in a very specific transaction into your account. And the transaction is going to handle the replacement costs of the iEMS controls. And the great thing about the transaction, which I'm going to show you here in just a minute, is that the transaction is dynamic, and the control cost for the replacement will change depending on what Delta energy storage system you're going to be modeling. So once you guys are approved, okay, we're going to see the icon lit up. So all you're going to do is click in there, and now we're ready to go. So in the middle, the first thing that I usually go to here is the ESS design. So you're going to click here, you're going to see a drop down, and within the drop down, we're going to see all of the Delta equipment powered by ETB controls list here for you. There's 6 options. On the low end, we got a 55 kW, 110 kWh. We can move to a 110, 220. We got a couple 250 options here, both with a 2 and a 4 hour discharge duration. And then we got a 500 kW option, both at a 2 and 4 hour discharge. So this is really nice because it's going to say, hey, here's some, medium or smaller commercial opportunities and some really large industrial opportunities here. And you can always stack these on top too. So you can always have multiple systems deployed as well. So let's go ahead and choose a battery. Now, once you choose one of these systems, okay, it's going to ask you for a design quantity. Now, if you know how many designs that you'd like, go ahead and just type in that number of designs, okay? It can be any number that you need. And after that, you're going to go down to the control settings. So on the controls, okay, so these are the ETB controls powering this hardware. And we have some peak shaving and TOU arbitrage options at the top, one with no charge restrictions. So we're going to charge whenever we need to, right? From the grid or from solar, whenever we have to charge, we're going to charge. No restrictions. We have the same logic, but charging from PV only. We have time of use arbitrage, specifically with or without charging from PV. So once you dial in the controls that you're going to want to use, over on the left, you're going to dial in your system cost. So for this, we'll call this one Delta 55K system. Let's call it $70,000. And this cost should reflect the cost of the hardware, the cost of the controls, and any other additions you need to add in there to make your margins, right? So install, labor, profits, everything, right? This is your turnkey cost. And also, as I didn't mention, in the email that you receive from ETB will be a pricing sheet, right? So you'll get a pricing card giving you access to price up the Delta hardware and the controls to dial in this, and then you add your margins on top. So once you hit save, what we're going to see now is our ETB Analytics. And now what we can see here is the battery that we used. It's going to tell us the equivalent annual full battery cycles, the amount of energy discharged, out of which we have a certain degree of system losses. And then we have our blended savings. So in ETB, when we see any energy storage systems that have a blended savings of about $40 or higher, we would consider that to be a pretty valuable opportunity. And to see this come in at $112 is just fantastic. We love seeing results like this, and really just showcases just how good our controls are and how good the hardware is to forecast this amount of value into a project. So we love seeing blended savings like this. And just as a kind of comparison, right, you always have the opportunity to use the ETB simulation, and this comes with the software, and all these integrations are free, okay? So again, it costs you nothing to use this. But as opposed to the ETB simulation, right, we do require a decent amount of information to model energy storage. You need to know capacity, power, the discharge and charge efficiencies. Down here in the controls, like how do we want the battery to behave, right? Peak demand shaving, an arbitrage or self-consumption. There's different percents to dial in. So the real value that is being brought forward with the integrations here is that we did all the heavy lifting for you. We worked really hard with the Delta team to look at systems that were deployed in the field to get realistic results of how these things will behave in the real world. And really took a lot of the guesswork out of it for you and just kept it as simple as possible while still being very accurate, okay? So now that we have our system modeled, as I mentioned before, we can move forward to the transaction. But that kind of brings up one other question, is saying, well, how do I know how many systems is going to be appropriate for this opportunity, okay? So once you dial in the system itself and the controls, okay, you can run the ETB Optimizer. So when you run that optimization engine, all right, it's going to look back and see, is there solar PV installed on this project? What rate tariffs are we using? What's the consumption load pattern and the overall consumption data that we have? And it's going to stack whatever system that you choose here, like the 55K. It's going to show you one of those systems first, and then it's going to stack it twice, 3 times, 4 times, all the way up to 10 of those units. And it's going to show you a lot of information when you run the optimizer. So we have energy savings. We got specifically demand savings of how much we're going to save on demand only. Combined savings from electric and demand. We have annual peak demand, right? So as you stack systems or add different systems, what are we bringing down that max annual demand to by adding that system? And how much energy are we exporting to the grid? So this could be very valuable in certain markets where we have a really low rate for exported energy to the grid. And in which case you want to say, hey, I want to export as little energy as possible. Other markets that have full retail net metering, this isn't going to be as big of a deal. But this optimizer gives you a ton of information and really helps dial in what the most cost-effective system could be in your proposal. So I want to touch on that just really quick. And now that we have our system designed, right, really strong blended savings here, we're going to get to the transaction. So on the transaction side, like I mentioned, we're going to drop in that specific transaction. It's going to be titled here, ETB iEMS cash purchase 20-year term, okay? So this is the transaction you're going to get. So let's go ahead and open this up. And when you open it, it's going to prompt you for a couple user inputs. These are specifically related to solar PV O&M, so operation and maintenance costs and fees. Now, if you are going to model O&M, you can do so right here. You can say what year it's going to start on, what your annual O&M cost is going to be, and do we want to escalate that cost annually? If you're not planning on doing any O&M, you can just put in zeros, okay? So let's go ahead and just do that. Now, once you hit save, we're going to get our analytics here, okay? And we're going to see that with this example, the Delta battery, we actually do have solar PV installed on site too. It's a 51.5 kW system for solar. We got a 3.7-year payback and a 209% ROI. So really a no-brainer in the field. If you see something like this, people are going to snatch that opportunity up. So once we have this modeled, we're going to jump into a document, and we're going to see this whole proposal being forecasted here on our document framework, ready to present, ready to go. So let's go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to fast forward right on down to the energy storage page. So this is where we're going to get a lot of information about the energy storage system that we had designed and implemented. So here's the information here about the Delta PCS 125 battery that we used. Okay, I put in a system cost of $70,000. Here we can see modeling out of California utility. We have SCHIP available. We got the federal tax credit, depreciation, California depreciation. So for a system at 70 grand, our net cost is $18,000. And down here, we have a nice chart that tells us on a monthly basis how much energy that battery is discharging and the totals here at the bottom. And we can see what our total demand savings are on a monthly and annual basis as well. So let's fast forward on down to the cash flow. So what we're looking at here is we have our total project cost, okay? So that's going to include our energy storage and our solar PV cost, okay? And then we have our iEMS license renewal, okay? So this is really where the transaction comes in, where we have a replacement cost for the iEMS. So on the pricing card that you get with the approval on the integration, the first price that you're going to get is going to include the hardware cost and the first 10 years of the iEMS. So this transaction will work dynamically with any Delta integration that you use, right? Any of the systems through the integration. So if you choose a larger system, that transaction will automatically identify it and put in whatever that cost is to renew the iEMS control fee, okay? So we show that here at year 11, and we're going to pay that fee and get ready for the next 10 years of system deployment. So if anybody has any questions on how to use the integration, on anything involving Energy Toolbase at all, please definitely let us know. Reach out to your account manager. And if you don't know who your account manager is, when you guys log into your portal up here at the Help Center, click here. It's going to tell you who your account manager is, okay? So just reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you any way we can. And thank you so much for your attention here the last couple minutes. And Tracy, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Great, thank you, Matt. I am going to take the screen back from you. We do have quite a few questions coming in. So let me make sure, Matt, if you could just give me the go ahead that you can see the Q&A slide.
Yep, I got you.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we do have a lot of questions, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can. Let me, I will start with, I'm just going to pass them to the Delta team, and then Shane, Brian, Ravi, you can jump in with any answers. So the first one is, other than being approved Delta hardware vendors, are there any other qualifications applicants must meet to be approved?
This is Shane from Delta team. So actually, we do have additional requirements for applicants. So once it's been approved, we will send out a checklist. So basically, it is have like a list of questions, just a very easy question to answer. Then after the applicant fill out the form, it help us better understand the project, and we can help the customer to better design the system. Other than that, there's no any other additional requirements.
Okay, the Delta team, this one's for you again. Is the standby loss you mentioned measured per hour?
Ravi, you want to take that question?
Yeah, this is per hour.
Okay, great. One we had, I think, Matt, I'll just take this one if it's easy. Regarding proposal information being shared, is the proposal information shared with Delta? We do share the project information, but that does not include any personally identifiable customer information from your proposal, so that is not shared. We just share the project information and the specifics. So personal information is not shared. Let's see. Delta, I'll pass this one to you. We're looking for a solution for offering a client demand shaving and backup storage option. What is offered?
So let me take this question. So I think we offer both options, like demand peak shaving as well as backup option. So as I mentioned, our product 125 kilowatt can also do the standalone application or the microgrid requirement. But most of the this is the AC coupled system, so that can help on both the applications.
Okay, Matt, I'll throw this one to you. I saw on the screen other icons for integrations. How does the Delta one differ from the others?
Yeah, so really looking at the other integrations, like if we're talking like STEM and like Tesla, so like those integrations are going to be using, first of all, their own controls. So one of the main reasons how this differs is that Energy Toolbase controls are going to be powering this integration. So just keeping it all in-house, right? So that's one big difference, is that our controls are powering this Delta equipment. The second really is going to be the equipment itself. So each integration is going to have different energy storage characteristics and sizes. So what we were going to find is that certain systems with Delta could be better equipped to handle scenarios that you come across. So So just definitely looking at different opportunities to integrate those batteries into projects.
Great, thank you, Matt. Delta, this is for you. You mentioned an outdoor system. What is that? Up to what temperature?
So this can operate up to like -20°C to like a +40° operating temperature.
Okay. I think you kind of touched on.
It's a NEMA 3R outdoor.
Yeah, so if the temperature above the 40°C, they would deread, and we can provide the customer the dereading curve, so you can see exactly what's the output at a certain degree.
Great, thank you. I'll pass this one to you. We had a lot for the Delta team. Your application is for on-grid peak shaving. I think you guys kind of covered this, but can you provide backup for a client to recharge battery with solar?
Yeah, so it depends on the application again, right? So since the PCS is AC coupled, so we'll be operating the PV in parallel. So we can use the EMS to control the inverter, because we also need to, based on the load requirement, and also we need to curtail if the battery is full and your load is less. So that we can work with the EMS to make sure that we can use the PV to charge the battery.
Great.
And Tracy,
yeah.
And Tracy, one thing on top of that really quick is that within the Delta integration, those are clearly labeled in the control options, whether we want to charge from solar PV specifically or no charge restrictions. So if we do want to charge from solar, just make that selection and the software will model that out.
Great, thanks, Matt. And just to add on top of that, again, if you're new to Energy Toolbase, your account manager will walk you through those control setting options for you on a call. Matt, I know you covered this already, but we had some questions about transactions. What kind of transaction is going to be available for this integration?
Yeah, so upon approval, so once you're approved, we're going to automatically drop that transaction into your account. So it's a specific iEMS transaction, and initially it's built around a cash purchase, but we can create that transaction for any sort of financial needs that you have, right? We can recreate that logic into a loan, into a lease, a PPA, a very specific loan, whatever you need. And that transaction is going to be dynamic, right? So whatever Delta system that you end up choosing, that transaction will identify that system and push forward the appropriate iEMS renewal costs in your cash flow. So it's super simple. I mean, there's really nothing that you as the user have to know to use the transaction. Just basically click on it and it'll just kind of do its thing. So it's about as simple as it could get.
Great, thanks, Matt. Delta, this is for you. What are the warranties and product guarantees for the equipment, the PCS systems?
The PCS itself have 5 years warranty, and then you can buy extension warranty, from us as well.
Okay, we do have a couple more that I want to get to. Delta team, what are the average project sizes for using the Delta PCS?
So we use 125 kilowatts as a building block. So you can build like a 125, 250 or above. On other side, it can also deread the output to, say 55 kilowatt for the smaller project. So for the average size, I would say it's about 125 to 250. But we see both like go other, different direction, go larger or go smaller.
Okay, and then the last one, I think we've gotten almost to all of them, but I think, Ravi, you might have mentioned this, but does Delta offer installer training for the systems you were mentioning?
Yeah, so based on the project requirement, yes, we can do the installer training for the team on the EPC team.
Okay, great. I think we answered almost all of them. The ones we didn't get to, we will pass on to the Delta team or either myself or Matt, and we are going to get those answered for you. But I think we got to almost all of them, which is good. So again, like I said, we will be sending out the recording to everybody after this. If you're interested in using this integration, you can either contact your Energy Toolbase account manager if you are already a user, or you can sign up for a free trial on our website. And during that trial period, you will have full access to this integration. There will be no restrictions to it. And before we sign off, I just want to mention, we are going to be exhibiting at a couple virtual conferences coming up. The New York Best Annual Capture the Energy Conference, and that's August 4th through 7th. And the Energy Storage Association's virtual conference, August 24th through the 27th. I'm going to include these links in here for you to register if you want to check it out. And thank you again very much to the Delta team for being on today's webinar. We are really excited for you all to start utilizing this. And again, please reach out with any questions you have to any of us that were on this webinar today. Have a great one.
Hey, thanks everyone. Thanks, Tracy. Thanks, Matt.
Yep, you're welcome, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Thank you.